Saudi Arabia and the environment. Hey everyone, this is Neriin Bamanie with director Abdullah Al-Qaid, and this episode is on Saudi Arabia and the environment, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, as you know, the planet is getting hotter, and unless governments take immediate action to cut greenhouse gas emissions, dramatic changes to the climate will become irreversible. That was the verdict of the world's foremost climate scientists in a report published in the summer of 2021. UN Chief Antonio Guterres called it the Code Red for Humanity. Now, the report was issued by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and it says human activity over the past century has already fundamentally changed the natural order. To prevent a global temperature rise of more than 2 degrees Celsius by the year 2030, scientists believe governments must substantially cut their carbon emissions, and fast. The effects of climate change are especially clear in the Arab states of the Middle East and North Africa region, where drought and temperatures higher than 50 degrees Celsius have now become the norm. Now, over the past 40 years alone, average temperatures in Saudi Arabia have risen by more than 2 degrees. That's 3 times the current global average. Now, global average temperatures, though, can be misleading because they hide local temperature increases. And this is according to Natalia Odnoletkova, a PhD student at Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah University of Science and Technology, majoring in earth sciences. Perhaps the biggest environmental challenge facing the kingdom and other MENA countries is water scarcity. Underground aquifers are not replenishing fast enough to meet commercial and industrial demand, while desalination techniques and foreign imports are damaging and unsustainable. And so, in response to increasing calls on all governments to act, the kingdom ratified the Paris Agreement in November 2015 and communicated to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change its intention to cut up to 130 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions by 2030. Early in 2020, analysis by the King Abdullah Petroleum Studies and Research Center showed that Saudi Arabia has become the third fastest reducer of emission from fuel consumption among G20 countries. It found that carbon dioxide emissions in the kingdom had fallen by 26 million tons, down some 4.4% over the previous year. Now, even if the world moves away from fossil fuels, there is no guarantee that temperatures will remain stable enough for the planet to cool. Governments will also have to invest in restoration to repair the damage done on the environment over many decades. And 2020's or 2021's year record-breaking summer temperatures, flash flooding across China, Central Europe, and the US, and simultaneous forest fires on almost every continent have been cited as the latest destructive manifestations of accelerating climate change. The burning of fossil fuels, the clearing of forests to make way for agriculture and industry, and the ravaging of vulnerable ocean ecosystems by chemical pollutants have rapidly increased the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Carlos Duarte, a professor of marine science at KAUST and an internationally renowned marine biologist, said, "An all-hands-on-deck approach is needed in order to meet our shared climate goals. And this requires global collaboration and activating all options, even those that do not seem to currently have a sufficient scale. And once we achieve these goals, the world needs to embrace a program of atmospheric restoration, as holding carbon dioxide levels at the threshold may lead to unpleasant and catastrophic surprises of events, either natural or anthropogenic but unanticipated, and lead to a release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere." And that is why, in the lead up to November 2021's UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Saudi Arabia decided to begin bold efforts to cut greenhouse gas emissions, restore ecosystems, and reduce our environmental footprint. Saudi Arabia has pioneered the framework of the Circular Carbon Economy, the CCE, as a way of tackling the climate change challenge. And this approach was endorsed unanimously in the year 2020 at the G20 Summit of World Leaders under the Saudi presidency. CCE advocates the reduction, recycling, and reuse of carbon emissions across industrial processes, which are goals that are now familiar and accepted across the world as a way of mitigating harmful emissions. And the kingdom is also leading the way in the GCC with the Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, which aim to reduce carbon emissions by 60% with the help of clean hydrocarbon technologies and by planting 50 billion trees, including 10 billion in the kingdom. Afforestation, that is what it's called. It's planting trees, and it could help remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, increase biodiversity, and avoid land degradation. Knowing how the government works, we know that it will be carefully planned, monitored, and protected. Achieving the very ambitious goals of afforestation under the Saudi Green Initiative will be challenging, but will generate major benefits to the kingdom and the planet. And these positive steps were recently acknowledged by John Kerry, the U.S. climate envoy, who also lauded Riyadh's plan to invest $5 billion in the world's largest green hydrogen plant in Neom, the smart city under construction on the Red Sea coast. All right, and that was it. That was Saudi Arabia and the environment. It's a short episode. It's special for our National Day. This was me, Neriin, Bamanie, with Director Abdullah Al-Qaid. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a wonderful day.